In the golden age of kickboxing, there was a sudden death elimination tournament, where 16 masters from all different backgrounds and styles came together to test themselves for honor and for glory. This was the legendary K1 Grand Prix, where the best talent all fought multiple times in one night to determine who was truly the greatest in the world. We began in the epic 1997 Grand Prix, where 11 of the 15 fights ended by KO. And circled inside with the kickboxer's pivot, keeping his foot straight forward as he crossed his rear leg behind to avoid exposing the back of his leg. Liko began by testing Hoost's reflexes. He feinted jabs of his own, then threw a rear leg roundhouse instead, but Hoost responded with well-honed skill and precision. Luckily for Liko, he didn't get injured by Hoost's check, as many of his prior and future competitors would. Hoost jabbed again, then tested Liko's reaction to his own leg kick. But Liko did not turn his shin towards the kick as Hoost did. This meant that Hoost was free to kick all he liked with little threat of pain or injury. His long-range weapons tested, Hoost tried out his power punches. Liko simply retreated. If this proved consistent, then Hoost wouldn't need to worry too much about counters. But Liko did not prove so timid the next time, parrying Hoost's next jab and returning across even after taking a hard double jab. It was now clear that Liko he even turned his cover block into a high block, putting Hoost in an unbalanced and highly compromised position. However, Hoost managed to hop back and throw a cross and kind of reverse Superman punch. But this must have grown Liko's confidence as he went on the offensive. However, this turned out to be a huge mistake. Liko shuffled deep into a hard jab, which Hoost cross elbow blocked. Liko followed up with a hard rear hook, but Hoost ducked in to smother it. Meanwhile, Liko's momentum sent him crashing into Hoost, tripping over Hoost's lead leg. Hoost pivoted away outside, but to his credit, Liko managed to follow him, jump turning like Tyson while keeping track of distance with the rear arm frame. Liko was relentless and charged forward with the wide hook, but Hoost kept distance with his own frame while gliding back, then pounded a short, hard to Hoog's side from southpaw to counter Hoog's left. As he did this, he was already loading up for a big lead hook that was driven forward by the retraction of his kick. The punch barely missed, the next one partially landed, and Gwinnett turned the third one into a frame to lateral shift off angle to southpaw. This still hadn't done much, but if he could stay consistent, just maybe he could start to wear down Hoog. For his part, Hoog continued to press forward, and Gwinnett threw as he shuffled back, seamlessly turning his shuffle into a shift to load up a roundhouse that again connected clean to Hoog's side. Once more, Gwinnett chained a punch off the same side for good measure. But now it was clear that there was a big problem: background in point fighting. Mobility-based fighters usually use their footwork to wear down opponents with low impact strikes, like Ali with his jabs, or run them into hard shots, like Willie Pep or James Toney. But Gwinnett was throwing power shots as if they were rangefinders, with no base and no momentum, meaning he had no weight to put into his best attacks. Gwinnett had spent years developing inclinations for Taekwondo tournament rules, which often frown upon powerful attacks as they lack control. Completely unfazed by Gwinnett's attacks, Hoog simply pressed till hell broke loose. Hoog threw a rear leg kick as Gwinnett stepped outside to throw a right. Gwinnett's punch partially connected, going around Hoog's leverage guard. Meanwhile, Gwinnett's deep step meant that Hoog's shin was in the perfect position to chop right through his leg. Both men stumbled, but Gwinnett managed to right himself enough to slam another roundhouse into Hoog's ribs. Hoog grabbed his leg, then used his free hand to slam a punch into Gwinnett's chin. The ref separated them, and Hoog immediately went back on the attack. Even now, Gwinnett showed no respect, throwing Hoog's own signature attack at him and missing by gloves. But Waring showed himself to be a man of no honor, pulling down Aerts' glove to clear way for a huge overhand right. This was such a blatant sign of bad sportsmanship that Aerts was caught completely unaware. But years of drilling and sparring kicked in. Aerts wisely secured an overhook and collar tie, then walked himself back to the center of the ring. Meanwhile, Waring threw a barrage of rabbit punches. The ref separated them and issued a warning. The fight resumed, and Waring moved in with kick feints, hopping forward with a chambered leg. Aerts attempted to kick past the obstacle to Waring's back leg, but only just skimmed it. Waring's next attack was a jab. Unlike his last technique, Aerts clearly knew how to deal with the jab. So, Waring again pressed forward with the chambered leg, but this time, Aerts had a better plan. He waited until Waring inevitably had to put his lead leg back down, then connected with the hard rear leg roundhouse kick. But very fatal mistake. LeBanner closed in and fired off a hard rear leg roundhouse kick. Rufus had been doing a decent job of checking or sliding his leg back the entire fight. And here too, Rufus managed to lift his leg in time to check the kick. But it didn't matter. With Rufus's check turned a little too far inside, the outside of his leg still took damage. Rufus stumbled out of the exchange, his leg now badly hurt, and LeBanner immediately went after it. It seemed that his leg kick may now have been LeBanner's last chance for victory, but time was running out. Competitors were now in the quarterfinals. And now, two of the greatest martial artists on earth would meet to face off in the ring. In their first encounter, Hoost had gotten knocked around and thrown off balance during most of the early exchanges. This was in part due to LeBanner's size and strength, and in part due to his excellent positioning and posture. But then, Hoost had capitalized on. When LeBanner threw roundhouses at Hoost's body, Hoost targeted his support leg. When LeBanner tried a lead hook, Hoost cover blocked and returned fire, sneaking an uppercut under his arm and finishing by framing into a hard. Although the punch started wide, it had a way of arcing in to sneak inside of Hoost's guarding hand. But even if the hook itself didn't land, LeBanner could simply straighten his arm to turn the punch into a frame. Hoost ended up on the floor again and again. And while this may not be especially damaging now, it was finally time for back until LeBanner attacked, then stopped short and lunged into a hard cross. But LeBanner slipped the cross at the very last moment. Hoost tried his trick again. Another miss. And again. This time, he got caught with the jab, but he kept throwing anyways, narrowly avoiding a left cross through skill or pure luck. Regardless, Hoost had a mere fraction of a second to get his bearings before LeBanner fired off a tremendous right hook, the same punch that had ended their first fight. The strike connected, but Hoost rode it back just in time, returning a vicious lead hook of his own. Now, Hoost's timing was perfect. He slipped the punch and winged a thunderous rear hook right into LeBanner's chin. LeBanner was shaken, and Hoost used his next right to step out and angle in, a tactic designed to force the opponent to waste time readjusting their position. LeBanner was still hurt. He clumsily turned to face Hoost, only to find a wall of red slamming into him. Hoost, who was the undisputed king of kickboxing. The remaining fighters were now in the quarterfinals, where only 8 of the original 16 remained. Now, 2 incredible warriors faced off in the ring, determined to move even closer to the title of greatest in the world. Mike Bernardo was a South African martial artist with a heavy background in boxing. Despite this, he announced himself to the world of kickboxing by knocking out the great Andy Hoog. Bernardo's style was built around heavy punches, leaning as much weight as possible into his blows and hurling his fists at opponents like sledgehammers. This resulted in low head movement and a heavy lead leg, 2 things that are very detrimental in kickboxing. But Bernardo had great timing and a unique sideways check. All in all, his powerful fists more than made up for his stylistic shortcomings. But this wasn't the case at first. Bernardo and Aerts had a deep rivalry, having fought 4 times in the past, resulting in 4 shared knockouts. Aerts controlled their first encounter with basic rear leg roundhouse kicks that Bernardo nonetheless had no answer for. Aerts soon ended it with a savage right hook. However, Bernardo had quickly improved and, as I mentioned, found ways to make his heavy punches work. The next year, Bernardo beat Aerts 3 times. Winning via DQ once, and twice via devastating KO. The key was Bernardo improving on his own unique way of checking, using it to safely leap into counter punches or fall down into them. In this way, he not only neutralized Aerts' leg kicks, he turned them into a liability. Now able to operate in his preferred range, Bernardo had outboxed the Lumberjack at mid-range and roughed him up at close range. Lobbing looping hooks over Aerts' collar ties. In the end, Aerts hadn't merely missed the counts, he had been completely flattened. The intense rivalry would surface once again as each man looked to progress to the next leg of the split step to lead with the cross. Shifted into a left straight with a high knee, then drove his knee back and hopped directly into a switch step to set up a chopping right roundhouse. But he wasn't done. He then used the retraction of his kick to load up one more straight right. It was a brilliant, incredibly complicated display of footwork. Despite this, Philo's immediate counter right still found a home. The fight now devolved into a slugfest. Just as things were heating up, the first round came, then fell into a hook-cross combination. Hoost faded back, staying just out of range by hopping mid-kick and targeting Philo's head. The two warriors were demonstrating incredible skill, but dealing out little damage. Hoost continued the theme, attempting another spinning hook kick to the head, which missed. Philo responded by kicking his ass. Literally. Hook had won the previous year's Grand Prix, and had made short work of his first competitor this year. And now, he was looking to add his 3rd Grand Prix championship belt to his name. These two hardened competitors had a history. They had crossed swords 8 months before at the K1 Kings fight, where Aerts had controlled the fight with powerful punches and clinch work, and KO'd Hook halfway through the first round. The question looming in the air was whether moving forward to the finals to face the great Ernesto Hoost. 16 elite warriors were now down to 2. The Blue-Eyed Samurai, last year's winner, Andy Hoog, and Mr. Perfect, Ernesto Hoost. The two had fought twice before, with Hoost taking majority decision win over Hoog in 1995, but Hoog enjoying the more recent victory. But tonight would be no ordinary rubber match, with the fate of the entire tournament on the line. This one November night, the pair had carved a path through the opposition, to meet as the last two standing. Each man had done so while showcasing his own unique, incredible style. Ernesto Hoost was a Dutch kickboxing veteran with multiple championship accomplishments under his belt. Known as Mr. Perfect, Hoost possessed some of the most dangerous kicks in the game. And the special way he checked kicks was enough to knock out competitors. To this point in the tournament, Hoost had KO'd Stefan Liko and Jerome in 1993, so he was determined to win it all this time around. He literally shocked opponents with his versatile and inventive kicks. He was known for his sky-high axe kick and the Hoog Tornado, a spinning hook kick targeting his opponent's leg. He had knocked out Gwinnett and Sataki in less than a round combined, and he had chopped the Lumberjack down to size. He had gotten even with Hoost in their last encounter, and now was the chance to break the tie and gain a second championship in the process. The 16-man Grand Prix would all come down to this. True to style, Hoog once more started off the round with a bang, leaping into what may have been an epic finishing attack, if Hoost hadn't perfectly timed it with a cracking uppercut. Hoog somehow stayed conscious after falling full force into Hoost's fists. However, fortunately, the passing of knowledge, so that even when the glory of competition fades, the art goes on. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.